It's time again for the Insiders with Chuck Chvala and Scott Jensen, sponsored by the Wisconsin Counties Association and the Tommy G. Thompson Center on Public Leadership.
Hi, I'm Scott Jensen, former Assembly Speaker.
And I'm Chuck Chvala, former Senate Majority Leader.
And we're the Insiders. Well, Wisconsin politics and national politics were sort of rocked recently when a Milwaukee County judge was arrested by the FBI and then later indicted by a grand jury for obstructing with the arrest of a illegal immigrant who was wanted on charges. Chuck, the judge has been suspended by the Supreme Court. What do you think is going to happen here?
Well, what I think people have to understand, you have to put this in the larger context. The Trump administration wants to kind of change norms out there. This would never happen. And if you listen to people from the FBI and from other sources, you would never have an organization come in, they literally handcuff the judge, walk the judge out of the courthouse, taking the judge to be booked. That would never happen. That no matter how serious the charge may be against the judge, that's just not done. The Trump administration is trying to change norms here. Now, is it possible that there could be charges filed and something could happen, some penalty could come to the judge? Yes, it's possible that something could happen. But what they're trying to do is strike fear and intimidation into the hearts of people. And what people in the United States don't get, you really have to do some digging to realize that this is the kind of thing that authoritarians do. And by the way, we keep calling it authoritarians. These are dictators. And what they do is they start by taking minor things and then they make it into bigger things. And it is not an insignificant thing to send a message. Here's what was really going on. The message was being sent to every judge, both county and federal in the United States. You mess with us, we're going to put you in cuffs. We're going to charge you. You're going to go through that indignity. Your family will go through that indignity, and we're going to go after you. That's what's being done here. We have to recognize that there's a reason that this has become such a big play. It's because the Trump administration wants to send a message, and they sent that message very effectively, I would say.
Well, they did send a message, and I think the judge is actually in trouble here. I mean, most people who take a look at this say, you're right, this isn't the way they normally do it. They are trying to send a message to the judiciary here in the country that they're going to deal with a top issue from the last election, or one of the top issues. The voters said overwhelmingly they wanted to deal with the subject of illegal immigration. The Trump administration is not going to flinch on that, and they're not going to let local or federal judges impede that with their own beliefs. They got to follow the law, and the federal law enforcement agencies are just trying to essentially carry out the law here. And I think she's in deep trouble in this case. Now, right in the wake of that, we saw another thing happen here in Wisconsin politics, which is Governor Evers put out some guidance to state employees across the state that if ICE comes into a state facility, that people should contact the state's lawyers and hold off before doing anything with the folks from ICE. Some people took that to mean that the governor was suggesting that the state government and state employees should not cooperate with ICE in arrests, and that kicked off something here. Do you think anything is going to happen with Governor Evers?
No, again, it goes to what are they trying to do? They're trying to signal that anybody who gets in our way will be arrested, including governors. What they're really trying to do is to get this imprinted in the public mind that it's acceptable to put the cuffs on judges, maybe even put the cuffs on a governor and try to do something to him. Now, frankly, what the governor did here was simply give the advice that any attorney gives to their clients. And that is to say, hey, there's stuff happening out there that's new and different. Before you take any action, get legal advice and make sure you're doing the right thing. And by the way, I think that means the right thing, both in terms of providing access to people who might be eligible for being deported, as well as to make sure that all legal rights are protected on the part of the other individual. But you'll notice that what has the Trump administration chosen to make their case on? They've chosen it in the area of deportation. Why? Because the American people have spoken pretty clearly. that they want people who have been convicted of crimes, etc., deported from this country. And frankly, I think there's pretty broad bipartisan agreement. But you see what they're doing here. This is what authoritarians, dictators do at the start when you're going down the road toward dictatorship. You send a really strong message by putting cuffs on a judge. That never happened before in society. All of a sudden, every judge is looking at this saying, ooh, I'd better give the benefit of the doubt to the people on the other side, to whatever Trump wants to do. That is not good. Our society is based on the rule of law. And without the rule of law, you end up with people getting pardons because their mom went to a dinner and gave $1 million. And then the next week they get pardoned. This is the kind of thing of which dictatorships are made. It's not good. Yes, they're choosing an area of the law that people mostly agree with, and including myself, that illegal aliens who are convicted of crimes, they shouldn't be in this country. Of course not. But they're doing it in such a way to create intimidation, other actions that this administration might take. And I think, honestly, that's where we need to focus ourselves, is on what's really being done here. Norms are being violated so that the dictatorship can take over. It's not a dictatorship yet. But as some commentators who have been in other countries, like Hungary with Viktor Orban, have said, if you want to stand up to this stuff, you need to do it early on. And what's really disturbing, Viktor Orban, guess where he was a guest? At the Conservative Political Action Caucus a year ago or so. These are not good things to be done. And I'm surprised and disappointed that my conservative colleagues are willing to show that kind of disrespect for the law or to cuff a judge and take her out of her courtroom. Not the way to go.
Well, I do think that there's an overwhelming mandate here to get something done about the issue of the illegal immigration, and that the president is taking decisive action with regard to this. You say he's violating the norms. Some would say they're just carrying out the law, which was previously ignored in the last administration. I think this is going to continue to affect politics at the state and the national level. And the thing that I'm most fascinated with is the determination by many Democrats, particularly at the national level, to defend the illegal immigrant here. And some of these people, the things that they have done are just indefensible, and no clear thinking American's going to say, oh, we should do anything other than get them out of this country. They're here illegally. They are causing pain. They are causing all sorts of crime in the country. If that's what they have done, people want them out, and that's what the Trump administration is doing. I think this case in Maryland, the case in Milwaukee, all have become national cases because the Democrats are sort of taking an odd position, like it's okay for a judge to impede federal law enforcement in trying to make an arrest. Oh, it's okay for a guy who beat up his wife and is doing human trafficking. We should read him, his rights, let him stay in the United States while we go through this long process to adjudicate it. No, he should just be deported, which is what exactly should happen.
I think I disagree very strongly with Scott, because not about the specifics of the case. Scott states it well. I don't have any disagreement with that. The way that this is being conducted, what is being done here is the rule of law, and the legitimacy of judges is being questioned by the way this is done. There's a reason that we don't have the FBI and others going in and cuffing judges and taking them out of a court, because it's sending a terrible message. And of course, the Trump administration has used immigration because it's their strongest issue. In fact, at one point recently, it was really the only issue where they had a majority of Americans on their side. They're trying to take their strongest issue, but then do things that are extraordinarily wrong and bad and not consistent with the history of the United States for 250 years. That's something to be worried about. And it's not in just this area that it's happening. So be very careful, folks, when you see something like there is a much more nefarious thing going on than getting rid of immigrants who have committed crimes. And definitely those kinds of people should not be in this country. And by the way, the Obama administration and the Biden administration deported a lot of people. And there's a process that needs to be go through. That's the difference between America and the Soviet Union. When you're a dissenter in the Soviet Union, they just take you immediately to the most awful place in the world. And by the way, remember, when people are being deported, it's one thing to be deported. It's another thing to take people countries that they've never been in. The idea that we would, as America, take people to South Sudan. Sudan is not a stable country. These people have a good chance of dying, and their family members could never visit them. We are not that cruel. We are not that way. That is not America, and this is not American justice. And I think watch the circumstances around us. It's very serious what's going on in America. Watch it.
Well, my guess is we'll continue to talk about this issue over the course of the next year or so.
We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to The Insider with Chuck Chvala and Scott Jensen, sponsored by the Wisconsin Counties Association and the Tommy G. Thompson Center on Public Leadership.